Okay. Last thing I want to talk about this morning are lookup tables, HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, that allow you to pick one item from a whole long list of items. So here, again, I've got partial information about invoices. I've got the amount that they ordered from us, and it comes time to play or calculate the sales tax. Well, as you know, that sales tax varies from state to state. Right? Some states have it, some states don't, and so on and so forth. So if we were to try to write that as an if statement, it would be a nightmare because we'd have at least 50. Have like if it's less, if it equals Arkansas, or else if it equals California, so on and so forth. It would take you forever to do, and you'd probably never get it right. And the problem is even more complex than this because look, right? We all know this. We live in New York. New York State here, that's just the state sales tax. There's also a county sales tax. And then I counted up yesterday, there's 62 counties in New York. So we'd have to add 62 more rows to this thing here. So that would make our if statement impossible to do. But that's okay because we have this tool called a lookup that allows us to scan down through here, find the right thing, and pull an answer. So basically all it's going to do is it's going to look for Kentucky. So it'll just scan down through here until it finds Kentucky, and then we'll just tell it to get the answer from there. That's the basic strategy. The function's pretty easy to set up once you have a lookup table set up here, and that's what this thing here is. So back here, equals VLOOKUP. Open parentheses. So the thing that you want to look up in the table that we just looked at, so here it happened to be their state abbreviation, comma. Then the next argument is the lookup table itself, and that's over here. And I probably should have taken time to name it, but I didn't. Anyway, just starting with Alabama, AL, all the way down, the first two columns. Okay. Comma. The last argument is which column you want to get the answer from. So we've only got the first column is the lookup column, and the second column is where the answers are, so we just put a 2 there. And I'll just push enter, and that'll take us back there. And that's not that's formatted as dollars, so I'm going to rechange that to format as percentage. Someplace. There it is. Okay? All right, now there's a couple of things we've got to take care of here before we can go forward with this. First of all, if we want to copy this down, we want to make sure that as we copy the formula down, our lookup table doesn't slide down this sheet, right? So back on here, that table array where it says sales tax B3 through C53, we want to make that a absolute reference. I'm just going to highlight the cell coordinates and just push the F4 key. That puts a dollar sign in front of each part of the coordinate, making it an absolute reference. Okay. And now we can copy this down. And there's our table, or our answers. Okay. AK doesn't exist. What's going on with that? I'll have to look into that later. Why is Alaska not coming up? I don't know. I'll figure. All right. This is good, though, because this is one of the places that's easy to introduce errors into your workbook. Here, this is not too bad because it comes up with an NA, which means that we did something wrong, so we'll have to go back and figure out what that is. But it's worse than that because the default assumption is that this lookup column is in ascending order. And it's not. Notice here, Arkansas is out of place alphabetically. If you go down further, you'll discover that Missouri's out of order, and there's a couple of other places that are out of order. So what happens is the way this works, it keeps going until it finds something bigger than the search value. So in this case, we're looking for Kentucky, right? When we can compare letters, we can say one is bigger or smaller than the other one, depending on how they, if we were to alphabetize those two things, right? A is smaller than D because it comes before, A comes before D in the alphabet, right? AD or AZ comes before BI because A becomes, all those rules that you have to learn about how to alphabetize stuff apply here. That's how we get bigger and smaller, all right? So for Kentucky, it keeps coming down here and says KS is smaller than KY. KY is not bigger than KY. And then it says here, wait, LA is bigger than KY, so it backs up and picks that one. Does that make sense? It keeps going until it finds one bigger, and then it comes back one. So that's what up here, what's going to happen with Arkansas. It's going to get to AZ and say, wait, AZ is bigger than AR. Right? Because if I was say put those in alphabetic order, you put AR before AZ. So it's going to stop at AZ and back up. And so the people from Arkansas are going to get the sales tax for Alaska. Okay, good for them, not good for our company. And I think the same thing happens in Missouri, if I remember right. Right, so MO would come here. No, actually they would get Minnesota's, which is higher, so we're going to have a bunch of unhappy customers. But that's all. It just keeps going down that list until it finds something bigger and backs up one. Okay. Now, there's two ways to fix this. One is we could just sort on that first column. Make sure that it's in ascending order. We may want to do that. We may not want to do that. We may not want to do it because these things are sorted by the state name, the full name, not by the state abbreviation. The post office did the best they could at alphabetize, coming up with a two-letter abbreviation for each state and keeping them in alphabetic order, but sometimes they couldn't do it. The second way you can fix this problem, what we did was what's called a range lookup. We can add another parameter here and do what's called an exact match. So down here, I can add another parameter, call it false. And now the rule is keep going down that list until you find exactly the same quantity. Stop there. And if you hit the end of the list, return an NA. Okay. So now that's going to fix that stuff. Okay. So you got to be careful when you use this lookup because it's so easy to introduce errors into your results if you don't check this stuff. All right. The reason why it's called a VLOOKUP is because the lookup table is arranged in vertical order. HLOOKUP works exactly the same, except your table is arranged horizontally, like this discount one over here. We're giving them a volume discount. If you order $0 to $99.99 worth of stuff, you get 0% discount. 100 to $299.99, you get a 1%, so on and so forth, right? Okay, so to make this lookup table work, though, you can't have ranges here like this. You have to have a single number. So what we need to do is to modify this table like this, and you just put in the bottom of each range. So the bottom of this range here is 0. Whoops, 0. The bottom of that range is 100. Bottom of the next range is 300, and so on. Okay. And so with range up, lookup, let's say the order was for $650. 650 is bigger, 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 not bigger than 1,000. So it comes back to here, and we're going to tell it to get the answer of row 2. All right. So when we do a range, when we got ranges like this, we have to use the range lookup. So then it's critical that you have these things in ascending order, because if you were to make the classic mistake, say, of typing an extra 0 in here, whoops, like that. Well, like that. There we go. Then it's going to stop here and come back for this sort of stuff. So you got to make sure that it's in ascending order. Okay. So then to do this one, let me just fix this so I can do it. It works exactly the same way as before. The only difference here is because the table is arranged horizontally, we use HLOOKUP. Like that. The thing that I'm looking up, well, that would be the amount of the order. And then I give it the lookup table, which is just those 2 rows here. The first row or first column has to be the search vector. So in this case, that new column or that new row I created is my search vector, and then a comma, and I'm getting the answer out of row 2. And in this case, I got to leave it like this because it's a range thing, and then I just put a closed parentheses here. And again, since I'm going to be copying this baby down, the lookup table should be a absolute reference, and I can never get it highlighted. Let's try this here. Oops, there we go. F4, like that, and so on. Okay? So these things are pretty easy to set up. When you set up the table, it's very flexible because now, next week, next month, whenever New York gets around to it, they might raise their sales tax, right? So we could come in here and just change this number here, and our formula will be updated automatically. So it's easier to maintain this than a big complex if statement. It's easier to set up. You can have way more options here, because I think there's probably other states that do a county-by-county sales tax. I should look that up someday. All right. Anyway, questions about lookup tables? Okay. The critical thing is make sure you know what's in that first column or first row where you're doing the lookup. Make sure that it's in ascending order or use an exact match. All right, so your job here is we got some grades and we want to do some stuff with them. On the first exam, you're supposed to curve it by this set of rules here. So if their grade is between 80 and 88, they get 1 additional point, and so on. They have a paper that was graded ABC, so on and so forth. We need to turn that into a numeric equivalent, so there's a lookup table down here that has the translation for that. And then you calculate their average based on those numeric grades, and then once you get that average done, you calculate their semester grade off of that using that last table down here. Okay? All right, so work on that.